here at ACO Radio, American Communications Online, or any affiliated stations or websites are not responsible for what guest hosts or call-ins may say. All programming is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
Hello, world. Welcome aboard, all you ground troops spinning around smartly on the planet we call home, Earth, Gaia, Sophia, whatever you call it, it's where we are now. So be here now, and we are excited to have our Sunday Go-To meeting today. And we've invited some of our pastors of the Ascension Cosmos Oracles nonprofit here in Florida to join us and enjoy the rest of our lives together as friends in cyberspace culture. Today is Ascension Cosmos Oracles, Ascension Church Ohana, Love One Another. Every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern, we share paranormal authors, speakers, alien contactees, UFO secret space, cosmology, folklore, writers, developers, webmasters. We share ACIR Radio, Cosmos Radio, ACO Radio, and TJ Morris Radio is our brands, and we are heard all over the world in many countries, or most all, if they want to tune in, or they can find it in podcasting wherever you listen to your podcast, including Spotify and Spreaker and Stitcher. And we are owned by iHeart now, one of the largest, so we're very proud to be with iHeart. Sundays are Sunday Go-To meeting, and Theresa J Morris, that's me actually, Ministries, have formed a nonprofit, and we've asked pastors to come, but I tried to get Pastor Ken today, and I believe he's up there, going to be 79 this year, and I imagine he's taking a nap. But we're going to see if Pastor Richard and Marci Kosich came on. I think Marci came in on Skype. We'll see. Hi, Pastor Rick. Is that you in Georgia?
Yes, it is.
Well, I think we have your friend Marci. Let me see if this is Marci to say hi, and then we'll just say hi. Hello, is this Marci? Pastor Marci? Someone else? Just listening. That's not Marci? Okay, it might be somebody else. Okay, well, Richard, I guess you've got the floor with me and you. So, Richard, just whatever you want to talk about today is Ascension Cosmos Oracles. Really our sort of first day that we've got our nonprofit paper back as of June 3rd, even though it took till June 8th. But I got my phone on June 8th, but I didn't get it turned on till yesterday, the 10th. So I'm going to try it out today. So let me know if I fade like on the other, Mediacom, and they fade because so many people are on my cable company. So, Richard, this is, like you were telling me, the direct line, and so now hopefully we'll have better communications going through New York. Richard, what would you like to talk about? It's all about whatever it's going to be with us. We will be the foundation, and we're combining our Ascension Cosmos Oracles to include our Ascension Church Ohana on Sundays, and Love One Another is the theme for today. And, folks, we'll try to give you a theme because we cover so much spiritual, paranormal, off the wall, out of the planet, outside the universe type topics. So, Richard, anything burning your soul or your heart or your mind, or want to get off your chest?
Well, I think that love is the key right now, you know. Love is the highest vibration that we can vibrate at, so, you know, it's a very key element at this point in time. And, I mean, you know, love resolves all chaos. Love brings about peace. Peace, of course, stomps out war and conflict, crises, and all that kind of thing. And I think that we've had a major learning curve over the last year in regards to receptivity to one another. Of course, a lot of us were isolated at first, you know, and we turned to the internet and made friends through cyberspace or reached out to other people through cyberspace. And then in turn, you know, we have compounded things now. We're coming back out of the separateness into being whole once again, as far as being able to communicate verbally in person and, actually share events and share different things the way that it was over a year ago now. But it's slowly developing, of course. But love is the key to everything, really, when you think about it. I mean, it begins with the love of the self, and then in turn you reflect the love of yourself outwardly to others. And then it leads to all kinds of love and joy and happiness, shared experiences that bring about a great deal of happiness in a lot of respects. Heck, you can make another person happy just by smiling at them. Anything to go on, TJ?
Oh, that was awful nice. Yeah, love one another. That was the name of my CD with my husband, my beloved, when he was alive on planet Earth. He's one of these characters in our game of life that did 20 and back in the program that we called the UFO secret space. But his father and grandfather, he had a long line of pastors, interestingly enough, and their family loved, but it was quite a different love, and I'd like to talk about that because Richard, when I was growing up, my mother, her mother, and her mother, I never saw them hug once, and it was during the Hitler days, and they were loving people, but can you imagine being a child and never seeing all the women as much as they relied on each other, and they loved each other, and they would say love and call each other sugar and honey, in Monroe, Louisiana. But my mother was born in Clarks, Louisiana, and my father was born in Monroe, Louisiana, and they met at Monroe High School. It was called Washita Parish High School along the Washita River, and they fell in love after high school and each had a job going to college, so they would go skating, and my dad bought my mother a pair of white skates, and that was the sweetest, nicest thing during those times. It was really hard, so she married him. I was like, why did she marry Dad? He bought me a pair of roller skates. Oh, yeah, that explains it. So I know that was a sign of love to her in that time. And, of course, I was born 12/26, the day after Christmas. So there's various types of love one another, folks. It's not all hunky-dory hugs and kisses, smooch, like in the television shows we see. And that's just being real honest. And a lot of the churches aren't all the same churches either. And Richard and I would like to offer that we have gotten together online as a cyberspace culture church on the Internet. We are an Internet church. There's many of them. I can go to Liberty Church here, and it's so crowded. Now they've gotten so popular because they also cast on their network or through their equipment. And Richard and I don't have that right now. Maybe in the future, if people decide they really love us this much, that we can, you can like our voices as a male and female. And it's up to you to figure out which is which. But in the old days, well, okay, I'll let you speak then. In the old days, Richard, if you want to talk about when your parents fell in love and you were given up for adoption, that's a type of love too, because apparently someone couldn't take care of you. But whatever you'd like to add about when you were born, start there, point of origin.
Well, of course, I come from California, and California back in the time that I was born was just getting ready for the hippie movement and the love children and all that kind of thing. So love was being societally spread around, you could say. But as far as family is concerned, well, of course, I had very disjointed. I grew up without a dad, so therefore I relied heavily on my mom for love, the bonding that went between a mother and a child, but there was no deep-set connection there. It was more intuitive rather than physical, or rather than, emotional per se, simply because, I was moved around quite a bit as a kid, from home to home and that kind of thing. And so I saw love expressed on a lot of different ways and on a lot of different levels. Like you said, there's the love that is the concern between the parent and the child, and that's more or less expressed innately, supposedly, or at least that bond is there without even being asked for. The attachment is kind of instantaneous. But the expression of that love between the two is not always there. As you have said, even witnessing your mother and her mother and the mother before that, they never hugged or anything like that, yet the love was there that went unphysically expressed. And you don't have to have physical expression of love. There can be love that is just emotionally felt. It's just sentiment that goes between two persons, And then, of course, when people do fall in love and actually get married and decide to have a family and all that, that's a love of another nature, because that's, love is a very unusual thing in the fact being that no one really asks for it necessarily or looks for it, and oftentimes when they do look for it, they don't find it, or oftentimes if they look for it in the wrong place, they get rejected. So love has lots of different avenues from lots of different perspectives. And, of course, now on a religious nature, we're taught to love one another, and that is to be a reflection of how we love ourselves, so that this in turn would be, that you would treat a person with respect, and you would observe their boundaries, and you would observe, you would honor them and trust them and have a good friendship with them. And friendships in reality are also based on love, because love is, I think, the ability to appear to be vulnerable to another person without having to give full explanation as to why you're vulnerable. Or it can also be meted out from the aspect that you're sharing a particular experience and they have nothing more than an ear to listen. That too is a form of love. I mean, love comes at us in every myriad form that we can actually think of, and it can be addressed from that aspect. I mean, a teacher praising a student that has excelled or done something of that nature, gotten an A on a report or gotten an A in a particular subject matter, or has excelled in school. That praise is a form of love, because it shows an appreciation of what the other person has done and a willingness to share in the gratitude for their accomplishment, so that they themselves feel more love because they have exceeded, in what they were trying to accomplish, or this kind of thing. So, I mean, we have parental love, we have childlike love, where oftentimes kids fall in love with each other or develop crushes on each other, and that's really not love. It's just kind of like a crush. In other words, it's like an introduction to love, I guess you could say. And then, of course, there's a love between siblings, and there's a parental love between parents and a child, and there's love of all kinds. But the love that we are speaking of in general is to love everyone equally without any expectations. And that's then in turn becomes agape, or what they call unconditional love, where you willingly accept everyone regardless of where they're coming from, where they've been from, what tradition they're in, and so on and so forth. And this is, I guess you could say that during my upbringing, it was the love of God that sustained me, because I could feel God's presence within me throughout I've always felt God's presence within me throughout my entire life. So therefore, that was the sustaining love, because even though I would be shown lots of examples where there was hardship and bitterness and resentment and greed and all of these other things, God's love was always there. So, and that's a different perspective to have, in a manner of speaking. But yet at the same time, it's a perspective that all can develop if they so choose, And I'm not being overly religious. I'm certainly not trying to stress or push any beliefs on any particular individual for any particular reason. I'm just sharing that this is the perspective that